today. All right. So welcome to our Faculty Fellows panel. This is our second semester of having a group of faculty who've dedicated time last summer and during this academic year to helping build a community of practice around teaching and learning. And we should have 3 of our faculty fellows here today. We seem to have gotten off to a rough start this morning, but that's okay. We have Dr. Brittany Myberg from the Department of Art and Dr. Pedro Hernandez from the School of Social Work, and we should have Dr. Randrika Henderson in a moment. She's also a co-host, and she is joining us from off campus. She is one of our former colleagues. So these faculty, 3 of the 5 faculty fellows, the other 2 had conflicts today. Let me share my screen. What our plan is today is to kind of engage everyone in conversation and really build upon both their expertise and your expertise, because all of us are experienced faculty, and there are things that we've kind of figured out on our own and things that we are still struggling with. For me, a lot of things that I'm still struggling with. So today I'm going to ask our faculty fellows to do a quick introduction and to share, to share their biggest teaching challenges. And after they do that, or while they're doing that, I ask that you put into the chat a teaching challenge or 2 that you really would like to bring up in a conversation. And we'll look at those challenges, and then we'll create 3 breakout rooms and have each breakout room assigned to one of 3 challenges from the group. And then we'll come back after about 10 or 15, well, about 15 minutes in each breakout room and share what the group in that breakout room was able to develop as the beginning of a strategy, or if not having to create a strategy, maybe the strategy that they use to meet that challenge, to overcome that challenge. And what my hope is that when you leave today, you will find some tools that you can take away and start using immediately. And let me just very briefly say the reason that we want to do this is we had some incredible presentations last fall, but those were presentations that we thought we wanted to share. We think it's important, if we're going to build a community of practice around teaching and learning, to engage faculty in conversation regularly. So today we're going to have this panel at the end of the semester before we start planning for summer. We're going to invite you back, and we really want to have another robust conversation about what your needs are, so that next year we'll be focused more specifically on those needs. So there's Dr. Henderson. All right. So I'm going to ask our 3 faculty fellows to introduce themselves and to share the teaching challenge or challenges that they feel like they're kind of struggling with or working on right now. And while they're doing that, be thinking of your own so you can share those in the chat. And I'm going to start alphabetically with Dr. Henderson, and then Dr. Hernandez, and then Dr. Myberg. So Dr. Henderson, would you introduce yourself and share your challenges?
Hi, yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Henderson. I'm in the Department of Speech Communication and Theater. And one of the things that I really struggle with teaching is, number one, is being interactive and online. And so I'm currently doing an online program from Jackson State. And so we're learning how to be more engaging. And then I think the second one for sure is because at Jarvis Christian University, I teach mass communication. So I'm teaching something that is ever evolving because communication is ever changing. And so one of the core things for any communication course and any other social science course is that we have to be relevant in our teaching, and we have to use, have to sort of take out space for life, social events that will happen that we need to go in and like look at, and also kind of refresh our examples. When I talk about code switching, I would use, Trayvon Martin and Sarah Bland, but there may be other incidents that has occurred that I could use for those understanding of how do we see code switch in another way. We're talking about a police officer, culturally we would act another way. If we're in the court of law, we would act a certain way. And so understanding that information must be updated as we experience life, because we're investigators of social science. So those are some of the two most important things that I sort of struggle with constantly revisiting in my teaching.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. I mean, Dr. Henderson, and we'll go to Dr. Hernandez, but I love making space for life. And Dr. Hernandez is ready for us. Look at that graphic he's added to his background. Awesome.
Well, I'm gonna actually the question. Oh, sorry. My name is Dr. Pedro Hernandez at the School of Social Work here. The things that I struggle is really in online teaching, which is all that we do here at the Graduate Division of Social Work, is how do I, I think it's the same thing that probably everybody is going to mention today, is engagement, is that we are sure that we provide our students with the highest level of quality education, that we keep them. When I say entertain, that I don't mean, like, oh, it's going to be fun today. But, I am quite funny, by the way. You're going to notice later. But that's not exactly, but engage is the option. And I'm going to be good today. And Dr. Isera knows that I can talk forever. So I'm just going to leave it there. She's going to appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. You have a lot of wisdom to share. All right, Dr. Myberg.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Brittany Myberg. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Art. I think I agree with both of my colleagues about some key challenges. One is definitely how is AI impacting higher education and challenging engagement. The other is how do we keep our material relevant? And I would say, how do we let students navigate and respond to the world around them in ways that are responsible and respectful within the classroom? So I'm finding ways to encourage debate as a way to learn about how to construct arguments in ways that engage sort of critical thinking. I am really struggling at the moment to kind of relate some of the more theoretical aspects of art history to visual art students and find ways to take those things that are more theoretical and make them hands-on. And so I'm really exploring how I can leverage AI to come up with interesting, hands-on, interactive things that they're doing in the classroom that relate to what we've learned at that kind of theoretical level. So those are some of my challenges at the moment. Definitely the relevancy and the engagement is up there. And Candace, I know you're the moderator, but I'm really curious what challenges you're seeing as well.
So once I started, okay, I cheated because I knew we were going to be talking about this. So I had this long list, but the biggest thing for me as an English professor was getting students to engage with reading materials. And so I want to find, well, I've been working on it. I want to continue to work on finding ways to design activities and assignments that get them to engage more directly, not only with the reading materials, but with each other. So a lot of my quizzes tend to be, what did you read? But now I'm trying to create discussion boards or in-class discussions where they have, I love the idea of an argument, debate rather. Maybe a debate would be something. When you said that, just sparked an idea, but trying to get them to actually read and read critically. All right, so we have all shared. Now it is everyone else's turn. So this is always the challenging part, as you know, as instructors, of getting people to open up and engage. But we need for you to put in the chat just one thing that you would like to possibly talk about. And then we're going to kind of look at them as a group and see if we can find some common themes and do a couple of breakout groups. So I see some of you are on camera and typing as we go. Now looked down. Those people who aren't on camera, I hope you too are typing. We are challenging the usual approach to faculty engagement in Zoom meetings. We normally multitask. We want you unitasking, I guess. Oh yeah, how to have students engage in metacognitive strategies for effective self-management to truly understand challenging and complex material. I love that. I have shared many times with students the research that I've read about thinking about learning, and they get so excited about it. They're like, "Oh, is that how my brain works? Is that why that works that way?" Karen says, I love AI as empowering people with disabilities. So I want to expose my graduate rehab counseling students to the power of AI and assistive technologies. Yes, I think all of us want to figure out how to incorporate AI into useful assignments that still teach, but also, help them
Can I say
more out of.
something? Maybe this
Candace,
is,
Candace,
Yes.
I just printed off an article that said that there's more. They got some research group got more therapy from ChatGPT than they did sitting in front of a actual therapist face to face. So I just printed it off. I got to learn more about it.
yeah,
That's
just as a content.
huh,
I am in social work, so so not that I don't, so yeah, you can ask me about those things. But actually, for the person who asked about disability, that's one of my new areas. I am part of a research group based in University of Kansas that manage, the Kansas is, we are just the research group, a database, a national database on adults with disabilities. And every year, they come up with the survey. And if you're interested, whoever said was, you can contact me and I can get you, because it is once you belong, you get in this group, you can get access to the database. Um, and it's not about students, it's about adults 16 to 63 or 64.
yeah.
But and by the way, we need people of color in this survey. It's mostly white, and we need more males and more people of color to make it representative. So that's my marketing thing here, because
Okay.
I have written many times using this database, and I have many projects that I'm doing with it.
Yeah,
It was
networking.
me, Dr.
Always be
Hernandez.
networking, right?
It
Sorry,
was
Karen.
me, Dr. Hernandez, Karen Lindstrom over in rehab, counseling rehab
Oh,
and
okay.
psychometric services.
Okay,
We'll
so
definitely put you guys in a group together so you can talk about how to use AI to be, to help students understand this. That's great. And Yolanda Barner says students are using AI, but she wants to look at making it more about inclusion in the classroom. Can you speak to that for a second? Let's, I don't know if you can unmute and tell us a little bit about what you're thinking. I don't want to guess. I have ideas, of course.
I'm trying to unmute. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So our students are using AI. They're doing it, and of course, we tell them, even though we may tell them not to use AI, they're using it. So how to make it more inclusive in the classroom, where students can do some assignments based on AI and then do some assignments not based on AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important to help them, because I think we all worry that if they become too reliant on AI, they'll lose their own really their confidence in their own creativity and their own ability to problem solve. So maybe scaffolding AI assignments so they start with their own material,
You learned
enhance
that
it with
from me.
AI, and end with their own material, right? Lots of questions about AI. Okay, so let's look at these and see what we can come up with. Metacognitive strategies for effective self-management. I want to talk about that one. Let's see, AI empowering students and creating more inclusion in the classroom, and yeah, finding a balance between foundational writing skills, use and okay, critical thinking. Okay. So it sounds like, anybody jump in, especially my fellows. It's hard for me to talk and think at the same time, but it is sounds like we are looking at, most people want to talk about AI, but it kind of falls into a couple of buckets. One bucket is using AI in a way that engages students in more critical analysis of topics, texts, maybe even their own learning. Dr. Wright, thinking about, how do you get them to think about their thinking? How do you get them to be meta about their learning? So that's kind of one bucket. And then the other seems to be about how to just generally incorporate AI into the classroom in a way that that both includes AI but allows students to be creative on their own. Does that sound like the general bucket that we have? Okay. So why don't we do this? Dr. Hernandez and I will go into one room, and Dr. Myberg, you and Dr. Henderson will go into the other. And maybe Dr. Myberg, since you've done the inclusive, exclusive AI bucket, that you can talk a little bit about. So room 2, and I will put this in the chat once I have gotten it clear in my head. Room 2 will be talking about creating AI assignments that still are blended with other assignments, or are they themselves a blend of traditional and AI, to allow students to use AI in a way that enhances the learning in the course. Kind of baby steps in adding AI, right? That's the way I would think of it. Taking what you already have and blending AI into it. Okay, that's room 2. Room 1, we're going to talk a little more about some of the I guess I would almost think of them as higher order thinking, critical thinking skills. How can AI help us either as faculty or help our students become more conversant in how we examine critical thinking and how we engage in critical thinking? So just that little narrow bit. Does that make sense to everyone? And so if you're interested in creativity, for example, thank you, Brittany. I definitely cannot think, talk, and write at the same time. So Brittany has put these in the chat. And I'm going to copy them in case anyone's wondering. So I'm going to create 2 breakout rooms here. Breakout room 1, we'll let you choose your rooms. Breakout room 1, higher order thinking skills that AI may encourage. How do we become more conversant in how we examine critical thinking. And room 2, creating assignments that are blended, creating assignments that blend AI with other existing assignments in ways that are meaningful. So go ahead and choose your room. I have now opened them. And you can see in the chat, for those folks who just came back in, I'm going to drop it back in the chat again. And it's roughly 1:25. So we will spend about 20 minutes-ish. And I'll send out about a minute before we close. There should be 2 rooms. Doggone it. All right, let me try that again.
I think this main room is like one room, and then the
Oh.
other room is now another room, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's say room 2. The other room is room 2. So Brittany, if you go to the open room
The other
and
room?
everyone
Okay.
else, yeah, that'll be our room 2. I don't really know what happened, but we'll call this room 1 because I am challenged. All right. And Dr. Henderson, if you would go to the room with Brittany, the 2 of you are going to work together.
Okay.
All right. So in this room, what we were going to talk about a little bit was, and I really would love to start, Dr. Wright, with your idea about metacognition, and we can just unmute and chat for a minute. Let's talk about, what do you see as, and I know you're working on this in a bigger project. What do you see as the goal for getting students to think about their own learning?
So it's hard to, it's challenging getting students to really understand what understanding means. Like I could say, hey, I want you to learn this thing and I want you to present it, and I may ask you questions about it. And still their level of preparation is, let me just like kind of repeat this thing several times. But then when my teacher asks me about it, I don't know. I have to look at my notes to see what I wrote. But I said I want you to try to understand every line and see how things follow. And I'm like, you don't see how that's not like understanding for yourself. So how to get them to really think about what does it mean to understand your material, and not to say, well, I I knew it. If I try to challenge them, they're like, well, yeah, I knew that. It's like, well, you're not really articulating it. And that's the point, not just for you to know it, but for you to express it to someone else.
And so do you have assignments that require them to teach each other, say, for instance, like that kind of assignment where you're, before they take the quiz, they have to then do some, explanation to their classmates of the topic?
No,
Yeah.
these were more so individual
Ah,
presentations that they made to me.
uh-huh. Yeah. All right, who else has had, I know I have. I'm in the middle of teaching modern poetry to my seniors, and they're seniors and they should be able to read poetry by now. And I refuse to tell them what it means. So we spend, all of the class period with me going, look that word up. What do you think it means? What else could it mean? But that's the only way I can get them to do what you're talking about. Like, they can tell me this is a poem about death because they looked it up on Google. But how did you know that? Like, what makes you aware of that? How did you get to that point? What is your thinking process? So it sounds like a similar challenge. Does anyone else have those kinds of challenges in their courses, getting the students not to regurgitate the information, but to really understand? Dr. Campbell?
Yes, I teach chemistry and I have a similar issue. We go over the theory and even provide equations sometime. And oh, I get it, I understand, but then if I ask you a question about it or give you a problem, you don't know how to do it, because I do in class spend a lot of time. I would give them problems and I would have just went over it, explained all the variables, and they're supposed to read, by the way, before they come to class. And I have videos that they, if they don't want to read, they can look at the videos. And then just the application, I guess. They can't go, I find my student try to memorize how to work a problem. And I was like, well, what if I change the word or
Yeah.
add a different variable? You can't memorize this. And it's the same thing as Dr. Wright was saying. They won't do well on a test, but well, I knew that. No, you did not know it. You have memorized some concepts, but you did not understand how everything, and you didn't know you didn't understand. You thought that if you go back and memorize some things that you have understood. No, you just have memorized a collection of facts. You don't know how to integrate them. You don't know how to use them to solve problems.
Yeah.
That is,
Dr. Hernandez,
that is
go ahead. I was
totally,
just going to ask you to give us some insight, because you did a great workshop last fall that talked about using AI as sort of a tutor. So how would you approach
yes,
this?
yes. What Dr. Campbell just stated reminded me the old saying, oh, I don't like math. I never gonna use math in my life. And people don't understand that math is not about, calculating the square root of something. Well, it is. It's about thinking. We stop thinking in in dealing with the unexpected when we're faced with the unexpected. We are so, oh, including us to a certain, meaning us older folks. Um, Not that anybody here is old, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying. That we're so used to Google and some other choices, but uh, that we don't want to put the effort to to think. And yes, there are. I may be preaching to the choir here, or like I say sometimes, I'm instead of mansplaining, I'm professor explaining that there are certain levels of learning. We need to move to the higher level of learning. The higher level of learning is to be able to teach somebody, according to what I've read in pedagogy. If you can teach it, you know it. Um, but we are letting our students, and I'm guilty of just, you know, I know I only teach online courses and they're not live, well, except for the PhD ones. We let them, use their computers, use their phone, and they don't understand. Oh, yeah, I'm listening. No, you're not learning. The minimum you have to do is take good notes. The second level is, you know, I'm forgetting the second level, and that I know that they cannot go to the fourth level by teaching, but maybe, if they meet with other students and have study groups, and I know how study groups go, because even though I'm all, what study groups used to mean is like we talk about everything but studying, and I know that. But anywho, but by having somebody help you, or you helping somebody, and it had to be a give and take. One thing that I noticed from my students is that they don't ask enough questions. And I mean that in all the ways you can imagine. They don't ask questions when we had face to face. They don't ask enough questions. They ask questions kind of too late. They only ask questions, so we need to foster this hunger. And I don't have a good answer But, there are ways that, and it doesn't have to be AI. We have to challenge ourselves as instructors. You don't have to go the AI route. There's so many other ways to foster, um, um, people getting involved and maybe even caring about what they're learning. And yes, discussion boards are maybe, group assignments. And I know we all try all of those, but if because time is limited, there are ways that you can do it with AI. Now, let me say one thing about AI. You know, I posted the rules, the guidelines for JSU, so you should read them first or later, I guess, that matter. But also, not every, there's a there's a big divide in cyber technology. There's a big divide. What I call the have, well, the have and the have-nots. You know, and that's a topic that it will take me hours and maybe weeks to go through. So I'm not going to go through that. So, but the thing is that we don't have, and I've been studying AI in the education side. And I just listened to my last thing was today, but my last webinar that the one that I'm citing is from yesterday. The thing is that we need to consider if this institution could have a license for an AI chatbot. For instance, we do have a license for Grammarly. That means that everybody have access to Grammarly. When you say, oh, tell me about using AI as a tutor, well, that implies that the student has an account in
Right.
AI.
Well, I would say, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but ChatGPT itself, the base model is free. So I was just thinking in
And there are
terms of,
limitations, yes, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I was just thinking in those terms. You are right. There are a lot of tools out there, and eventually we're going to need, as a university, to decide these are the useful tools that we should have access to. One example that I was thinking about while you were talking was maybe using, and this is kind of based on the model that you provided last fall, an assignment that students, and I think this addresses Dr. Wright's issue a little bit, that asks students to teach to AI a concept that they've covered in class. And then as part of that prompt to say, I'm going to teach you about this concept, act as a student, another student, and respond with questions for the things that I didn't explain well. And then bring that chat to class, print it out, bring it to class, save it as a PDF. Maybe that will help them identify, and maybe for you, Dr. Campbell, as well, where they are not connecting to the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Do we want
understand it more. I think I did misread it at first that the the AI is coming up with questions, not necessarily the answers. So okay,
Yeah.
but I still, yeah, that sounds like a nice option as well because they can develop the prompt where they're doing more of the wording of the topic. Um, Another idea that I've seen in my of reading research articles or doing the ACUE course is the idea of a concept or a mind map. So I was wondering if anybody has any experience in this group of how to get your students to do a concept map to help them identify what connections are you making, what gaps do you have, so you know what to fill in.
Uh, Trust me, it is hard because I try that at my PhD level classes and I get crickets. And the thing is that, and I have tried, there's many, even AI, there's many software and app to do concept maps and mind maps and etc. And what I settle for, maybe this may not be the best answer for you, but what I settle is um, I, and this one it took, by the way. Now, like I said, it may not work for you because of the context. What I settled with was what is called literature review matrices or matrices. And that is a matrix that it has, the students enter their articles, and it have very many columns, like of course author title, is it quantitative or qualitatively, and many details. But to make a long story short, everything needs a carrot. You need the carrot, not the stick. And by that I mean, if you offer them, this is going to be the discussion, this is going to be the assignment, and they're getting, points, it's going to require, as you are totally aware, a little bit more effort on you, a little bit more imagination. We can help you, but even today we have limited time. And what are some ideas that Dr. Pineda remind me that I said in one of those meetings, that something, but what I'm getting out now, and what I like to say from more experience, is that you use AI as a tool. Sometimes you have to use AI sort of against AI. I know I heard that concept yesterday, and I may not remember the wording, but they said, you can ask AI, and I have to, how do I prevent students from using AI? AI will tell me, which is funny. And some of the things that the AI have said to me, and I have read, are scarfolding, Scott, and try to use topics that, and I know this might be difficult, that AI won't know anything about, for instance, that, but now that's kind of hard. Every time it gets harder, because before AI was only trained to a certain day. Now most AI have availability of the option to go on the web. So you have to sort of use it in contrast, which is my basic sort of takeaway for today. See what AI can do, and you have to do it yourself. You first have to sort of, it's like that thing that comes down in the airplane, the oxygen. You have to put it on yourself first before you can put it on your child. Person that you love the most, your child, is second, right? So your students, you have to know AI yourself, and then use it later, like that, or oxygen mask. So uh, learn what the capabilities, and learn how it works, and then you can actually, I mean, it will surprise you how fast you're gonna learn,
Yeah.
and how useful it can be. And
I think that's a really good point, Dr. Hernandez, that we can come up with some ideas, we can play with them today, but learning for yourself, playing with it, seeing how it works is going to be the way that you can, even if you don't use AI in the assignment itself, it may help you identify ways to use AI, to use new ideas in your assignments. I wanted to share my screen. I think you can see the Chat GPT. Is that correct? You see it on your screen? Yeah. Okay. I don't know
Yes.
what math course, Dr. Wright, you're teaching, so I just put Math 112.
No, that's perfect. I actually teach that. That's trigonometry.
Okay. Oh Lord. So, tell me a concept that students struggle with.
Using the right function to solve right triangles.
Okay. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT that I'm a student in this course, and I'm going to explain about this concept. I would like for ChatGPT to act as a fellow student and ask me some limited number of questions, up to 5 clarifying questions after my explanation. And then they type in their explanation, which give me an explanation that a student would give. And I'll type it in, we'll see what happens.
Okay, so you have to look at the sides of the triangle and look at the definitions of the functions and see which sides match up to the definitions.
I don't even know how to do this, and this sounds exactly like what a student would say. It's incredibly vague. All right. Okay, so here is questions. It's questions. How do we decide which angle to use when applying these functions? What should we do if we only know one side of the triangle? How do we handle these cases where we need to find an angle instead of a side? Can these functions be used in non-right triangles? And how do we use the Pythagorean theorem alongside these functions? Are those the kinds of things they're not understanding or not able to articulate?
Yes, this is perfect. I mean, and some of those are questions that they ask about what goal do they look at. So it would really prompt them to, if they didn't ask that question, they should be thinking about how that makes
Thinking
a
about it.
difference.
Okay. Yeah. And this is a kind of thing that, you know, can be useful, but I go back to what Dr. Hernandez was saying earlier about you got to play with it. You got to come up with this kind of structure to see if you can manage something that will help your students. I would love for you all to, if you're interested in that, just to take a moment while we're sitting here and pull up chatgpt.com and write one for your own class and see if it's helpful. Mr. Sledge, how do we do that with writing courses, right? How do we?
Right. Exactly. You know, part of the challenge is that some students come prepared and do very well, and there are some that don't. And I always worry about not spending enough time with students that need some remediation in the class. So grammar, I'm always thinking about grammar because actually there are teachers that say they don't teach grammar, but they take off for grammatical errors. And it's a, you know, a mixture of different levels of preparation. I remember my one of my nieces telling me that she had enrolled in calculus, but she had taken trigonometry. I just thought about that when she mentioned that, because without trigonometry you can't pass. Only if you can do a quick study about trigonometry. That's really interesting.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask everyone to come back to this main room. I know you guys are typing away. I can see you now staring at your screens, trying to figure out how to create this self-reflective assignment, I guess is what we would call it. Self-aware, meta-aware assignment. I like meta. I just like that word, Dr. Wright. So I don't know if it actually applies to this, but
So, Dr. Pizzetta, thank you so much for this session. This is very helpful.
Did you come up with something, Dr. Payton? Are you working on one?
Yeah, I was working on something. Yeah, we're beginning to try to use this.
Okay. Does anyone have one that they want to share that you tried and tell us, or even just generally, how is it working out for you so far?
Oh, I gotta go to ChatGPT.
We had just had a great chat.
Good.
So I don't know if anyone can kind of summarize what we talked about, but there were lots of different challenges. I don't know that we necessarily came up with answers for everything. But I don't know if Dr. Henderson or Lewis Hale or Wheaton or Bonner, if you'd like to kind of summarize the things we talked about.
Sure, I'll use my communication skills today in my memory. So one of the things that we were really talking about is the complexity of AI that, but in the sense that when we think about our classes and we think about the value of a degree, right? So if you're a music professor, English professor, what are you offering your students that is so over the top that they would see the value of a 4-year degree? Right. And so one of those things could be what I talked about certificate programs, but then also realizing that it could be us revamping the program, like revamping some of our things that we're offering and understanding like, hey, maybe this class that you're offering online here may suit better in this way. If we go look at, okay, if your average person who's coming to school and they already know how to do graphic designs, right? What are you really offering them so they can see the value of the degree that you're giving them? And then also thinking about more complex questions of, we want students to use AI. It's great, but also not allowing them to become so dependent on AI. And some of those sort of thought processes could be, I probably want to say, okay, you can use it here, but not there. But if you turn it in, I'll give you feedback. So looking at some very critical ways that not to make AI seem like it's bad or unethical in its totality, but show them that you can use these things, right? But in it, could you be critical to know maybe some of the information in it is biased? When you say who's the top performer of all time or who invented jazz, maybe some information that you're getting is not accurate because this is still a coding system, that AI is not this perfect genius that we think it is. It can have errors. It could be wrong. And so as an educated person, you want to be able to say, okay, let me go fact check that. I'm actually using that in the in a denotative way, fact checking, so that they do not perceive that just because it's AI, it's right. So that's really some of the things that we were sort of discussing. Did I get it right, ladies? I hope I got it. Okay.
We're not
Ethics
all
today.
we're not all ladies, by the way.
No, I was talking.
Two fellas.
About the group. Right.
Could someone from our group, Dr. Wright or Dr. Campbell, you guys were kind of talking about the same challenge, and we actually we're much more micro in our discussion about how do you create a specific prompt for, or help your students create one for AI that will help them do a little more thinking about their own thinking. But I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to make Dr. Wright explain it since it was her brilliant question.
No, I really like the prompt example that you gave. So like you said, we were discussing how to get students to engage in metacognition, because a lot of times what they think is understanding is just on the lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy, just kind of regurgitation. So if we and then the use of AI is tricky, because if you do a standard, well, just ask AI for a response. Yeah, we would want them to delve deeply, but honestly, without supervision, they're really, a lot of them are just going to go with what it tells them as the answer. So instead of trying to use AI to give them answers, we should use AI to give them questions to think about. And the answers to the questions are what they can discuss in class. So first they have to actually try to explain what they think about a concept. If you can see, I think Dr. Pizzetta put that prompt in the chat. So you say, this is my understanding of the topic. Can you act like a student and ask me questions about this? And that's going to actually make them think about whether their explanation is good enough, if they need to add more, and actually try to answer those questions. And there may, of course, having some questions can spark more questions that students have.
And the goal was for them to
Oh,
bring this back to class, right? So that you could give them feedback on what or they could talk to each other or something.
can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah,
It's gonna be
your
more than a
co-host.
second.
Your
Yeah.
co-host, you should be able to.
Oh, I know, but let me be
Polite.
polite. Yes, you're the English professor, so polite. Like, no, I'm just kidding. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
It should say metacognition. Now, this is the paid subscription to ChatGPT. And there's this thing here called Explore GPT, which is what so I type metacognition. So, oops, so here, in metacognition, there's if you want, right. If you want to try this, I'll give it a shot. There's metacognition, thinking about thinking, insight guide. And the funny thing is when I type metacognition, thinking about thinking, if you look at here, there is that more by the same person group, chat with Aristotle. So, and I'm not saying let's play with this right now, but look, I would have never in my wildest dream think about typing metacognition in the type of they call them GPTs that are available. There are thousands, and they are rated. This one says, this one doesn't. It's not rated, but so the topics are. You cannot believe, like I just tried it, metacognition. I haven't tried it, but I just type it. So the amount of people that are working in such very specific things and have created GPTs is just mind-boggling. And I think that you have to check, I guess, try them, because even something like it's way more specific to my interest. For instance, if I type social work, but actually that's not a good thing. I want to do simulations in social work. Simulations in social work.
Could you add in there in teaching social work or in
Oh no, then I see. So let me not be so specific. So let me just say teaching social work, because I think I know where you're going, Dr. Piceda. So and I know some of these things are gonna go like Python. Python is a computer language, so don't worry. But look, social work research buddy, this because I'm semi-blind, I have my screen like 125, so that's why it looks so big. But I can type teaching math, which oh, come on. And then there's so many things that you don't even have to. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try like the example that Dr. Picetta did and try your own, but there's so much things in ChatGPT and in other ChatGPT is not the only thing. There is what am I blanking? Microsoft have one, which is called Pilot, right? Et cetera, et cetera. There's one that's called that I love called Claude, like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Don't ask why. It's called Claude. I love it. It's the one that I use the most. But ChatGPT is the most popular. So this will have so many. I can type almost anything. How to, and then it will have a GPTs, which is And then maybe this one is rated. Let me see if this one is rated.
Yeah. And
Uh,
on the 28th, Dr. Hernandez will be talking about some of these in more detail. And we only have about 3 minutes left, Dr. Hernandez, so I'm gonna
is
wrap
that
it
my
up. But
presentation on the 28th?
that's your presentation. The calendar, Dr. Hernandez. No. So
I need to be reminded.
well, you've just given me the clue that I need to send out that reminder email. So I think that you know, the idea that there are a lot of tools out there, playing with them, and I think also one of the things about ChatGPT, if you can just put in there, hey, this is what I'm teaching, here are my challenges, give me some ideas for how to address these, and some of them you won't like, and every now and then you'll kind of like one, and you'll say, okay, I like this, but I'd like for it to focus more on this. So it's more about stimulating your own thinking as an instructor. Yeah, Mr. Sledge, I think adding metacognition is important.
And remember, we are teachers, so
We
hopefully
are.
we are good examples. So we have
We are
to set,
learning exactly.
yes, we have to set the good example of, oh, at JSU, I was told to do things this way, da 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 da. So if we tell them, because this is so fresh, this is fresh.
Yeah.
We are lucky to be in this position to mold our students. We're teachers, we can mold students, but maybe in some respect we can mold them. This is a great chance so that
You can see he's excited about it. So definitely come on the 28th. And he and Brittany are going to pair up. He's got a presentation. She's going to share some active learning tools. I appreciate we only got a minute left. I really appreciate you all sharing your challenges. Yes, Dr. Campbell.
While you're talking, could I show you the chat I'm having with ChatGTP? And it's really good.
That would be wonderful. Let me hold on. Let me make you a co-host because I'm not sure how I have this thing set up.
yeah,
Okay, there you go.
yeah, that's right, because she's not on post.
So the last thing we did, folks in the other group before you guys came back, was I asked everyone to you should be able to share, Dr. Campbell.
Okay.
I asked everyone to come up with their own prompt that would encourage metacognition in their students and sort of critical thinking. And apparently Dr. Campbell has been working on it since then. So she's gotten
I have
drawn up.
something, so maybe not, just keep talking if I can bring it up, because I have minimized something to, okay, here it is. Now I can share.
And I know some of you have to go at the hour.
Whitney. Happy Valentine's Day.
All right, let's see what we got.
Is that it?
It's there. Yes. What have we got?
And it's very good. This is what I started with, your prompt you asked me to. And these are the questions that the ChatGPT asked. I answered some of them. Some of them I said I didn't know, or can you help me with? And I asked it, did I help you? Did I answer your questions? And so it answered the ones that I didn't know about, and it did it correctly, actually. And it gave me some examples and some more detailed explanation that I left out. And for number 4, I said, I don't think there are any exceptions. And it went back and told me, yes, there are, and told me what they were. And then it asked me, did ChatGPT want to quiz me to check my understanding now? And I said, yes, please quiz me. And it gave me a quiz.
That's excellent. I love it.
I should add that you can have many personalities in ChatGPT. You can have, in fact, that's one of the first workshops or videos that I watched. This guy was saying that he had, like, I don't know, 50 personalities, because the guy is a YouTuber and he's a marketer. And so you can have a personality that you're a student, and you can say, I'm a 20-year-old, blah, 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 you know,
Yeah.
because you can set your own personality and you don't have to write it every time. You can create, ChatGPT allows you to switch between personalities. And when I
Yeah.
say personalities, it could be your role, you know, you can be,
Right.
you know, whatever personality could mean expanded to that definition. It's role, personality,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
And yeah, that's very true. There's a whole like deep dive he can walk you through and how you create these sort of an imaginary student. So you could go back again and again and say, hey, pull up my imaginary student and have it do this. But I really love that. I like that your example was continuing. If you get students to print that out or save a screenshot, bring it to class, that would really engage them in some interesting conversations about, you know, how they can use it to learn. Because while we all think that, you know, we have to watch for cheating, that's definitely a problem. The truth is your students know that when they get out, they've got to be able to do the work. If they're going to be chemists, they've got to be able to do the work. So yeah, that is terrific. Well, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Dr. Campbell and Dr. Wright for sharing, and Dr. Henderson and Hernandez and Myberg in absentia for helping lead this. Next Friday, Dr. Myberg and Dr. Elisa Mosley will be talking about the Gen Ed AI focused courses that the university is interested in. And in having faculty develop. So if you want to get on that bandwagon, definitely, or even just want to know what it's about, please join them. It'll be at 11 a.m. We have to move things around, but we hope you'll be able to join. We will record it if you can't. Thank you all for joining today. Enjoy your Friday. It's a beautiful, crisp winter day. So get outside.
Valentine's Day, everyone.
Have a good day.
Dr.
Thank you.
Quisera, can
Yes.
I give you a call? So
Yes.
Okay, I just want to chat for a second because I don't
Okay.
want this conversation to be recorded.
All right. Bye,
right.
everyone.